So my name is Dee Patience. I'm a founding member of the Black MBA Association, the Austin chapter. And I wanted to really, first of all, thank you all for attending the Leadership Empowerment Institute today and taking time out of your busy schedules to work on some professional development and networking with us. So I wanted to introduce you to the session called Know the Rules, Play by Your Own Game. And you're here in this session, we're going to talk about using self-branding and thinking like an entrepreneur to really advance your career. So I wanted to introduce you to our speaker, which we're really excited about having. Her name is Rachel Armbruster, and she's the president and founder of Armbruster Consulting, which is based here in Austin. And I had a really good time talking to her earlier today about just her family, how she came to Austin. That's always a good adventure story for people. And so we got to really bond and connect, and I think she's really going to teach you some really great things about moving your career ahead. So the really cool thing about Rachel is that she works with charities nationwide to develop and refine revenue programs so they can fulfill their missions. And so basically what that means is that she's helped organizations raise over $500 million in the past 15 years. So Rachel, for instance, was the author, she's an author of Banding Together for a Cause, which is a book that she's going to be signing. She's doing a book signing today with us here. So I want you to definitely check that out and check out our table that'll be here in the back. And the book provides some lessons that she learned from her role at the Lance Armstrong Foundation when she helped put together the wristband campaign that I know you all are very well aware of and know a lot about. So with that, I want you to welcome Rachel Armbruster to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. We're going to talk about a few different topics, and we're going to jump around just a little bit. I was trying to think through how can you harness someone that has an entrepreneurial spirit and help them to make use of that for their career. And when Greg talked to me about speaking with you all today, I want to make sure that it's something that is extremely relevant and also provide some of those lessons that I've learned over the years that have kind of helped me to get where I am now. So one of my favorite quotes I wanted to start with, because I think it kind of sets the tone, something that I live by and that I've kind of used as a motto moving forward. If you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to build theirs. So there have been times when that's okay. There have been times in my career when I've said, I'm not in build mode, I want to just work and I want to be a part of a team. But there are other times where I've said it's time for me to go out on my own and to try something new. And those have always been great adventures. Some of them have worked, some have not. So don't be afraid of those times when it doesn't. But I do feel like long-term that this is something that you all should be thinking about if you really want to move forward as an entrepreneur. So this is kind of a quick timeline just to tell you, one of the questions I get a lot now that I have my own consulting business and it's going well is kind of, how did you get here? You know, how did you get from point A to Z? And so I thought I'd just run you all through this process because I think what my hope is that when you all look at this timeline, you'll see yourselves somewhere along that way. You might be at the same point that I am now with your own business, or you might be 3 steps before. But the idea is that it's a journey, and ideally this timeline will continue to expand, and there will be a million other things that will be added to this by the time my time is up. I started in Midland. So you see the nice Texas map there. Grew up in Midland. My parents were McDonald's franchisee owners. So Dee and I were talking about how I think I learned all of my customer service skills from working at McDonald's. And I will tell you that even at a young age was extremely type A and had a challenge for myself to be the fastest drive-through person in the Southwest, which I won that award like 3 years in a row. So I'm proud of that. I ended up going to undergraduate degree at Purdue University, and as Dr. Carter mentioned, the importance of liberal arts and kind of just a well-rounded person. I was a general communications major there. Had a great time. I got married. That's my husband. Also an entrepreneur. And then I started working at an ad agency as an account service person, which then led me to one of my clients, which was the Sun Bowl Association. And that was my first opportunity to work for a nonprofit organization. I had done some volunteering in the past, but and interning during school, but I had never actually thought about the idea that you could have a career in nonprofit. And I remember the first time I got that call, I called my dad and I said, I'm so excited, I got a job, listen to what I'm going to be doing. I'm the director of marketing now at the Sun Bowl Association. And his first question was, is it full time and are they paying you? So I think he was just scared that I might come home. But I got to work there for 3 years, and then my husband and I realized we really wanted to end up back in Austin. He had gone here to school at UT, and this is where we wanted to make our home. And my dad had given me some great advice once, so I'm guessing because you all are here in Austin, you've already followed this, but he said, go where you want to live first and then build your life there. And so that's kind of, we were building our careers and our lives in El Paso when I was with the Sun Bowl, and at some point we just kind of had that moment where you say, this isn't where we want to be long term, so let's go. So if you're not where you want to be, change it. Because you're investing a lot of time in building your network and everything else, your life here. So went back to advertising with Secola Martin, and then during that time my mother had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and so I really felt a need to give back to the cancer community. And I met someone that worked at the Lance Armstrong Foundation at a happy hour. So this gives you an excuse to have a drink every once in a while. So I met someone through a friend, a coworker's younger sister worked at the Lance Armstrong Foundation. I gave her my resume and said, I want to be involved. I want to be volunteer on the board. Tell me what I can do. Ended up getting the job as the events and sponsorship director at the Lance Armstrong Foundation in 2000 and was the third employee. And stayed with them then for 6 years. Ended up having my first son, and Carter, who's now 8. And we launched the wristband campaign at the same time I had my second son, Evan. And I'll talk a little bit later about the wristband campaign. And I also at this time was going to graduate school at St. Edward's University and getting my MBA, and that's where I met Dr. Carter. And then I stopped working at the Lance Armstrong Foundation and started working for a company out of Chicago called Event 360. And my hope there was, I knew that I had built a lot of skills and expertise working at the Lance Armstrong Foundation, raising money, but I felt like, could I do the same thing for organizations that don't have a Lance, that don't have a wristband, that don't have a Nike? And I felt like I needed to test those theories, and so that's, Event 360 gave me that opportunity. So that was a strategic move towards my end goal, which was having my own business, but it gave me a little more stability and some time. So I worked with them as their business development director and built their consulting practice over the years and ended up helping over 85 organizations in the course of 3 years there. And then I opened my own company, Armbruster Consulting, and last year finished my first book, Banding Together for a Cause, which was a response to everyone asking, how did the wristband campaign get started? You know, what would you do differently? How can I create my own wristband campaign? So it's really meant to be kind of a how-to. There's some strategy conversation in it, but it's also very tactical about these are the steps that we took, these are the spreadsheets we use, these are the questions you should ask. So it's really meant to be something that's very tangible for people to provide results. These are the groups that I'm proud to be working with. A variety of nonprofit organizations all over the country, variety of causes. And just, I think the biggest thing here is just I'm extremely blessed to work with people that are very passionate about the causes that they believe in. And I'm proud to represent all of these groups at different points. So this is one of my husband's favorite quotes. So I don't know if you guys have heard this quote or read it. It was in Forbes magazine. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So that, to my mind, encompasses you should have that attitude no matter where you're working or what you're doing in your life. Whether you're working for yourself or for someone else, you are a business. You are a brand. And so you really need to be thinking about yourself in that way, because that is something that will last with you no matter how many times you change careers, no matter how many degrees you get. That is something that that you own, that you have ownership of, that you're responsible for, and that no one can really take away from you. So one of the things that I would encourage each of you to do is to write your business plan. Sitting down right now, it really doesn't matter, like I said, where you work or what stage you're in your life. But think about if you were a business, if you wanted to build a business around you right now, who would you talk to? Who would be interested in what you have to say? All of the normal segments of a business plan. Who's your audience? How would you tell them? What are your proof points that it's worth something? And then why should someone invest in you? If you went today and said, I want to go get $100,000 because I feel like I can help provide a return on that investment, what would you tell them? What would you say? What would you do? So I think just thinking through that and thinking about it again in a way that it's just about you. And this is all going to end up helping you in your career, because if you know your worth and you know why someone should invest in you, the next time you come up for promotion or the next time you need to make a presentation, you're going to be able to speak so much more eloquently about the value that you bring to the company you're at, and you're going to start, again, even inside your own company, to build a reputation and to build your brand. The other thing I would stress to you all is the ability to tell your story. So there is actually a blog that I follow quite a bit. It's called livingyourlegend.com. It's written by a gentleman named Scott Dinsmore. And he has a whole blog post. If you get a chance to go on there, he has a whole, and he does it much more eloquently than I do. But he basically gives you, point by point, this is how you figure out what your story is. It's not about where all you went to school and what you did yesterday at work or how things are going or what traffic was like. But really, when someone says, where have you been? What have you accomplished? Being able to say that in a very short and succinct way, and something that's meaningful for people and sets you up in their minds. So know your story, practice it, tell it to your friends, ask your friends, what do you think are the 3 most important things about me? And they'll be willing to tell you. Ask your colleagues, what do you think are the 3 best things that I have to offer, or the 3 most interesting things about me? Find out what other people think and then incorporate those and skip some of the stuff that no one mentions, because it probably means nobody cares. It's harsh, but it's true. So here are some basics, and I heard Dr. Carter actually mention this just a couple of minutes ago in his presentation. Step number 1, have strong written and verbal communication skills. And I cannot stress this enough. And just because you maybe have a degree or you might even have your master's degree or what have you in writing or in a million things, but if you cannot write proficiently, and if you cannot be comfortable speaking in front of a group or have the social awareness to kind of speak to someone one-on-one and make that a very comfortable situation, you are dead in the water. Like, if you do nothing else from this point forward, you need to make sure that that is nailed down, because that is one of the things that I've seen time and time again. I'll have people coming to me saying, I want to start a consulting business, I want to do event planning business. And I say, great, you have all the skills, but then you put them in front of a client and their recommendations memos have grammar errors, they can't speak on the phone, they say a lot. Those kinds of things really just set the tone for your sense of professionalism and the quality standards that you hold yourself to. So just extremely, extremely important. Understand your emotional intelligence. I don't know how many of you, has anyone in this room read the book Emotional Intelligence? We've got 1, 2, maybe a couple, 3 takers, 4. I would recommend highly reading this book. I think it just stresses the importance of being extremely self-aware. And one of the other things that this will do in regards to your career and kind of knowing the rules and things is making you more willing to take criticism and take feedback. And I think by reading this book, you start to have a heightened sense of self-awareness. You start to identify your own faults, your own issues, things that you're working on. And when you know what you need to work on, then when someone else says, I see this a little bit, you can say, yes, I've noticed that, and here's what I'm doing to try to correct it. And just being the kind of person that can take feedback, both positive and negative, and do something with it and take action is going to be extremely valuable. Because you can learn so much from the things, your missteps and your mistakes and your failures, but only if people are willing to come talk to you about them. Only if you have the guts to step up and say, that was a huge, huge mistake, help me, what did we do wrong, what did I do wrong, let's look at it together. So I recommend that. And then, like I said, learn how to take feedback. So one of the projects that I did for a friend recently was, he's a real estate agent, he was interested in how do they perceive me? What's maybe holding me back? So we actually pulled together, he asked 20 of his clients to come together for a night, and I did a focus group just with his clients, some people that he had worked with, some people that he hadn't, and just said, what do you think about him? Do you like how he presents himself? Does he talk, well? What can you tell me is good and bad about him? And some of the feedback was tough, But there was a lot of great feedback as well. But the fact that he was willing to put himself out there, I think, spoke volumes to how he wants to improve himself and the kind of person he wants to be and the customer service he wants to offer. So the next thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is relationships. And this has been extremely valuable for me, I think, throughout my career, whether I'm working for other people or for myself. There's a difference between kind of colleagues and relationships. You know, relationships are those people in your life that you feel like you're willing to invest time in and they're willing to invest time in you. And people that will outlast every job, every time you move, nothing will matter. Those are just the people that are in your network. And it's really not just your LinkedIn network. It's really meant to be everyone, like I said, that's touched your life in some way. I can tell you some of the first people that called me when I said I'm opening my business were people that I had worked with 20 years ago, and they were some of my first clients. They said, great, we're so excited, we're glad to hire you, let's talk about how you can help. They didn't even know what they needed me to do at the time, they just knew they wanted me to be on the team, and let's figure it out together. And that's the kind of relationship that you want to try to build with the people that you're around. And because if people, again, if you're building your brand, if they respect the work that you're doing, they know that you have high quality standards, those people will keep coming back, and it'll pay off huge in both personally and professionally. And then to lead is to serve is to lead. So there's actually a book called To Serve is to Lead. There's a few out there with the whole idea of when I go into a relationship, I'm not really thinking to myself, what can that person use me for? How can they hire me? Or how am I going to make money off of this? But my first question is, how can I help them? How can them coming in contact with me make their life better, make their situation better? Those are questions that, and by doing that, you kind of set yourself up to help lead that person, lead the community. So I would encourage you all to be thinking when you meet people or even when you're at work, just think to yourself, how can I serve? What difference can I make? And then the relationships will come from that. Helping others fulfill their dreams, I will always, and you'll have all my contact information, I will always take a meeting if someone says, I'm starting out, or I'm in the middle of my career and I don't know what to do next, or point me in a direction, let's talk through it. Always take those meetings. If you get a chance to do that for someone, you will learn so much more just by talking them through their hopes and goals and dreams, and those will be the people that, again, will come back to you tenfold down the way. And it'll also help you clarify what you're doing, but help others make their dreams come true. There was a movie, it's a bad movie, so I'm just going to throw that out, New Year's Eve, but there was one of my favorite parts of that movie was where Michelle Pfeiffer hands this bicycle delivery guy her bucket list, and says, if you can make all of these things come true before midnight, you have these tickets to this party. And there were things on her list like go to Bali, just all kinds of amazed me. And he was so creative in the thinking in this movie. He found a place that looked like Bali that you could spend the day at in the middle of New York City, and he got her on a Broadway show and things like that. So I feel like if you can figure out what are people's dreams, what's on their bucket list, can you make one of those things come true? And even if you can't help them make it come true, can you encourage them to do it? Can you be that person that's kind of prodding them along the way to say, hey, I know you wanted to try trapeze, doing that. Have you signed up? Or I saw a Groupon for it. Sign up for that. Or I signed up for you. It's $25. Here, it's a gift from me. Go check that off your list. So anything you can do. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't mean you have to help someone start a company. It just means make them start checking those things off the list. Seek out smart, creative, and driven people and spend as much time with them as possible. So there are going to be people in your life that I always think about it, they're either making withdrawals or they're making deposits. So if you're a bank account, and I know some of you have probably heard this, but you have to think to yourself, am I surrounding myself with people that are making deposits? Because the people that are taking things out, they will continue to suck everything out of you until you have no more to give. So you really want to try to find people around you that have that same spirit. Just by being here today, these are the kinds of people that you want to be with. You want to encourage each other. There's actually a couple of blogs that I read, and a couple of the people that write them just attended a meeting that I'm determined to go to next year that's called World Domination Summit. would you just want to be a part of that? Like, that just sounds cool, right? Like, who doesn't want to be there? But it's this whole concept of all these hundreds of people, thousands of people that aren't just there to witness something, but they're there because they want to change something, because they want to have an impact, they want to do something. So imagine the network that you would have just being in a room like this, but multiplied by 1,000, and the ability for you all to do something, to change something, to change your own life, to change even the way that you look at things every morning. So I think try to find those opportunities for yourself. Try to find those blogs that you can read. Try to find, again, Dr. Carter mentioned different publications that you can read. Anything that will inspire you and people that you will be excited by. And Austin is a great place for this. There are tons of coffee meetups. There's a group, I'll tell you now, there's a group, 9 a.m. Mozart's down by the lake. Every Friday they get together. They're called the Regulars. They're on Tumblr. I'll forward you the link if you have any interest. But it's some of the most creative people I have ever met in my life. And some people are unemployed. Some people have their own companies. Some people, work at various levels. Some are, entry level versus senior VPs. But you get together, you sit there for a couple of hours, and the ideas and the networking and the inspiration is just amazing. So I would highly recommend it. If you can't make that, start your own. This is a great way, again, within your own company. If you're working in a company right now, but eventually you want to branch out, ask everybody, just send out an email and say, hey, I'm going to be in the conference room. I'm going to bring my lunch. This is a topic that I'm interested in reading about. Here's an article I just read. Would love to know if anyone else feels the same or wants to talk about it. I'll be here if you want to meet up. Or let's meet for coffee for an hour before work. Even if no one attends, everyone will remember that you sent that email. And the next time an opportunity for brainstorming comes up or they needed someone for creative thinking, they might think about you, whereas they didn't even know your name before. So those are the kinds of things that you want to put yourself out. Be a creator, start those groups and belong to them, and then share what you learn. Get a reputation, but only in a good way. Make sure, like I said, by doing all of these things, that you have a good reputation, that people know I can count on them. They're always going to be willing to lend a hand, whether it's on your job description or not. So, passion. Discover what you're passionate about. This is something that I'm amazed at time and time again. I will ask people, everyone, I ask this to everyone, even my optometrist. He's trying to give me an eye exam, and I'm like, what are you passionate about? What gets you up in the morning? He's like, what is happening? But turns out he is a huge sailing nut. Loves to sail, loves it. So I've sent him a couple of articles, and I found out he ends up working on a couple of nonprofit boards or volunteering. He has since referred me a couple of times, but he remembered me. In the millions of other patients that he sees throughout his career, I'm probably one of the few that asked him, what are you passionate about? And let him talk about sailing for the entire hour that I was in there. And found all about it and learned a lot from him. So the sad part is, a lot of times I will ask that question and people can't answer. That is not memorable. That is not someone you want to work with. That is not someone that's going to start their company. You have got to be passionate about something. And it doesn't have to be world domination. It doesn't have to be, I'm passionate about starting my own business. It can be, I want to be the best mom that I can be. I want to be the best community member that I can be. I want to be the most well-read person in the room. I mean, whatever it is, it could be anything, but be passionate about something. And then share that passion with others. Not to a point where they don't want to hear from you anymore about it, but at least make sure they know what gets you motivated, what gets you excited. And then ask other people about theirs. And then make a plan to have a positive impact. So like I said about the Lance Armstrong Foundation, that whole thing started because my mom had gotten sick and I wanted to make a difference for cancer survivors. That was my passion. That was my purpose. The LAF was a channel or a way to make that happen and have an impact on the cancer survivorship community. So you need to figure out, once you figure out what am I passionate about, now what are you going to do about it? Not just keep it, all to yourself and bottled up and that kind of thing, but really, what are you going to do to make a change? And then, like I said, know what other people are passionate about. This is another book that I would encourage you guys to, I'm a huge, if you can't tell, love to read. Didn't read much when I was going through my MBA because they gave me enough reading, but now I read a lot. The Cathedral Within is written by Bill Shore, who is the founder of a nonprofit organization called Share Our Strength, which fights childhood hunger here in the United States. And he talks about, if you haven't read it, the idea of it takes a large group of passionate people to make a real difference. And this idea that cathedrals were built over generations and people realizing what their part in building a cathedral was. And not that you were going to try to accomplish it all in your lifetime, but that 5 generations from now, maybe somewhere down the line, they will be able to witness this final structure, this final building, this final place of worship. And so I would just encourage you to be thinking about yourself. Are you being a cathedral builder? Are you a cathedral builder at work, at home, in your personal activities, in your community? And it just gives you a lot of great pointers. And that's a great organization, if you all haven't heard of it before, to take a look at as well. So this is a great quote that I just found. Someone had posted on Facebook. So I just thought I'd share it with you guys today. Also from a UT graduate, so put that there, show a little Longhorn spirit. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, I have a lot of people that have always come to me, people that have worked for me in the past, people that want to start their own consulting companies or businesses, and they're always saying, I want to think outside the box, this is my job description, and I know I can be more. And I want to start a whole movement about love the box, embrace the box, be the box, because I feel like everybody has to work within a box. Like when an artist gets started, they have to pick a canvas. When they start to paint something, they have to say, I'm going to pick a 4x4 square, or I'm going to paint something the size of that wall. Everyone has boundaries that they have to work within. So this whole idea of, yes, this is the box that I'm in, and I can't branch out, or they want me to think different. I feel like if you don't understand the parameters of where you can have an impact, and everything you come up with, every idea, every suggestion at work that you make is outside of your realm of changing things, just without possibility for you, then what good is it to anybody? You have to figure out, within where I'm at right now, what can I change? What can I recommend? What can I do? You have to be okay with that and understand that, hopefully by doing that, my box will change. It will grow. My boundaries will expand. Eventually I might not have any because I'll be writing my own story, but at some point I feel like you need to be aware of that. When an architect I read again, another book called The Checklist Manifesto. Great book. It's all about patient safety. I have a patient safety client. But it's written by a surgeon, and he refers a lot to checklists that are used by different industries and how that checklist has now been used in surgery to prevent medical errors. But one of the things he talks about is an architect. An architect, fresh out of school, he's drawing all these great plans. He has the most beautiful facility, the most beautiful building. He feels like he's ready to go. Then he meets with the fire people. Then he meets with the structural engineer. Then he meets with the zoning manager for the city. And all of a sudden, piece by piece, this beautiful thing that he has created, he has to manipulate it and change it to make it work so that it's actually a feasible building. So I think you are more valuable as a staff member, you're more valuable as a business owner and as someone that you can talk to if you understand those parameters, if you understand what you need to work within, because everyone can have great ideas and be a visionary, but if none of it is applicable, if none of it will work in the real world, it is useless. So I would really encourage you to figure out, can this be applied? Be the devil's advocate. Again, this is something else that I would throw out. Your job description, everybody has a job description, and if you don't, you should. So I've been in companies where they hire you and they say, we don't have a job description. So write your own, put it in front of your manager. If you don't have a job description, write your own, put it in front of your manager and say, are we on the same page here? Because I don't want to get to the end of the year in my review time and find out that I've been working on list A and you're on list B. So that would just be another little life lesson. I've been there. The other one is, it's interesting to me that we still write job descriptions based on your tasks, but everyone is encouraged to write their resume based on their impact. So take a look at your job description today, if you work for an organization, or even if you own your own business, write it down in a job description, and think to yourself, how many of these things are tasks or to-dos that I'm checking off a list versus what is the impact? If I get all of this done, what's the difference this going to make? Is it going to make for my company? Is it going to make for the company I work for? And be thinking about your job description in that same way, so that you're tracking against the impact and not just, well, I did my job, I did all these things that you asked. That's not, but if it didn't matter, that's the end of it. So I would encourage you guys, see the possibilities. Again, your job description is your box, but make it more. Do something with it. The next one is colleague versus lifelong friends. Like I said, you have to take a look at the people that you're surrounding yourself. Have a filter. Not everybody's going to make that lifelong friend list, and they shouldn't. If they do, you might be a little too nice, and you might want to say no more often. But you want to pick out a few of your colleagues today that you want to invest time in, that you want to get to know, that you think are going to be someone, not necessarily that you're going to invite over for dinner every Friday night or anything like that, but just somebody that you care about their life, their career, their path, and they care about yours. And make that a priority. And for those of you that have not seen this video, how many of you have heard about Kane's Arcade? You got one. So this is my whole embrace the box theory. This is a little boy who in LA, his father owns an auto parts store, a used auto parts store in East LA. And he made his son come with him every day to work, and he would sit outside and watch the traffic go by, and every once in a while a customer would come in and go out. No big deal. And one day the kid said, can I use some of your boxes that are just laying around, that all these parts have been shipped in? And he said, sure, no problem. So he takes all of these boxes, and one by one, he starts to build an arcade, and he calls it Kane's Arcade. And he makes little ticket dispensers, so when you play the games, he actually crawls inside the box and he'll spit the ticket out for you, and he makes change for you. So he built this whole thing. The whole storefront was just arcade games made out of cardboard boxes. No one came in. No one ever, they came in to buy their stuff and then they'd leave. No one wanted to play the game. One customer came in one day. He needed a part. While he was waiting for the part, he played the game. Kane had this whole program, it's $10, you get unlimited games, you get a fun pass, he had it all marketed. He was ready. And so he jumped through. Well, little did he know that the gentleman that just bought that first ticket, that only ticket that had ever been purchased to date, was actually a filmmaker, he made documentaries. So he then decided it was his personal mission to make a film about Kane's Arcade. So he asked the dad and Kane, can I film you? Can I study this? Can I watch you? And so he interviewed the family. He ended up doing a whole surprise party for a grand opening, so they made huge signs for him. They filmed it. This film now has over millions of hits on YouTube. People drive all over from the rest of the city to come to Kane's Arcade now. And this all happened because one 8-year-old little boy was bored one day and had an unlimited amount of boxes. And this is what he did with them, right? So think about it. Don't be afraid of the box. Embrace the box. I'll move on now. So with that being said, if you're that kind of person, if you come across as, I have my job description and look at how I'm making a change, and you've done all these other things, you're building your brand. Be an expert about something. This kind of goes back to your passion. Can be a little bit different though. So as an example, there was a young lady that I met 3 years ago. She just emailed me out of nowhere. Got introduced through a friend, I guess, and said, can I just go to lunch with you one day? So we went to lunch, and she said, I want to get into fundraising. I want to work at nonprofits, but I don't really know what I have to offer anyone. So after talking with her and asking a lot of questions over the course of the 2 hours, we ended up with a whole business plan around how she was going to be the collegiate fundraising expert in Texas, because she had worked on a bunch of different fundraising campaigns on college campuses. That was a niche that needs to be filled. And so we talked about, okay, now you start a blog. Now you need to find some research. Now you need to find out if you can get interviewed. Who would you talk to? Campus newspapers, organizations catering to college campus fundraising. So she became an expert in collegiate fundraising. That led her to one of her first jobs which has now led her to a job in DC where she is a sales manager for a nonprofit software company because they wanted her expertise. They wanted to know what she knew. That was all because she had volunteered through college and she just knew how to package it. It was all about packaging up what you already know and making it something that someone else wants. So think about yourself. What do you know about that no one else knows? What can you share that no one else can share? And then how are you packaging it? How are you wrapping it? How are you presenting it to others? Build your brand. And this is something that I did not do early enough in my career, and I would encourage you all today to go buy your domain name with your name on it. Do it immediately. Start your Twitter account if you have not already done it. Like I said, get your website, and it can be as easy. It sounds daunting. I don't know how many of you guys have your own website. GoDaddy.com has a program called Website Tonight with the whole idea that you can have a website within this evening. And I'm telling you, my first business website 3 years ago, that's what I used. It's $24. And you make a lot of clicks, and you might make a lot of missteps the first couple of hours, but eventually you'll figure it out. And you can have your website by the end of tonight. Like by midnight tonight, you can have your own personal website with your information. Put up whatever you want. 5 pages. Just think about what would you want to tell the world if you have a platform, because we all have the ability to do it. Use LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I will say, impressive. I actually had 3 people from this conference link in with me before today. They sent me requests over the last 2 or 3 days once the agenda came out. So I would encourage you all to use LinkedIn. One of the great things that I've started using on LinkedIn, if you're already there but you're not quite leveraging it enough, is post a lot of questions, because by doing that, people understand what you're working on or what you're thinking about. I posted a question, and if anyone wants to help me with this research project, I'm throwing it out, contact me afterwards. I want to know what the worldwide giving amount is. We have statistics on how much money is given in the US, and you can find some of those numbers in other countries, but no one anywhere has a total number of philanthropy dollars given in the world annually, which seems crazy to me. So I posted it on LinkedIn. I thought maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing here. So I typed it on LinkedIn, sent it out to my network. I had over 100 responses of people that I haven't talked to in 15 years that said, oh, have you looked at this website? I've looked for the same thing, can't find it. It started a dialogue. I ended up with a client because I posted that question. Just because they said, we've been thinking about that too. We're actually working on another global project. Sounds like you are. Maybe you could help us. So just putting things out there. It doesn't mean you always have to have the answers. Sometimes asking the questions is enough. The other thing I would say is have a personal email account, and this is where having your own domain name comes into play. You are much more professional and you look much more serious if you have Rachel@armbrusterconsulting.com or Rachel at even RachelArmbruster.com than saying, Rachel loves Texas at yahoo.com. You send that out to people, people kind of automatically know, not someone that's taking themselves seriously, not someone that's taking their life seriously, not someone I want to work with or be friends with. So I would encourage you guys to do that. The other thing I'll throw out with that, building your brand, I think because we always work for companies, you're automatically, you take the business cards that are given to you, and those are the ones that you distribute, right? That's it. That's who you are. Here's my business card. This is my title. Vistaprint, if you guys haven't ever used Vistaprint, you can actually get free business cards from Vistaprint, which is fantastic. Again, my first business, free cards. I would encourage you guys to go on there, put your name, put what you are an expert in. I'm a nonprofit executive strategist. I'm an expert salesperson. Whatever you want to say, put your contact information on there, your new website information, and have those with you all the time. Because not everyone you meet is meant to be a network person for your current job. They might be your future, and so you want to be able to represent, this is my future. This card represents the future me that I want to be, not the one that I am today. So think about that. What else can I say? Also, there's a great, if you guys want to have a logo and those kinds of things, these are little tips, I love them. There's a website called elance.com, and you can hire freelancers. You just post a project and say, I need to have a logo done and a business card design. and I'm looking for someone to do it for under $100, you'll get like 50 responses. And then you can look through their portfolios. They'll be located all over the world. It's personal outsourcing at its best. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at it. There's also, and I don't remember the name of the website, but I'm sure you guys have heard of it. There's a website where people will post what they'll do for $5. You guys heard of this? Oh, it's fantastic. They will do all kinds of things. They'll sing you happy birthday and videotape it and send it to you. They will make a logo for you. They will create your PowerPoint presentation. So take a look at that. I want to say it's called 5.com maybe. Maybe not that simple, but take a look at it. They just literally have a list. It's like Craigslist, but everything's $5, which is great. But it's all like usually personal services of some kind. Like I'll walk your dog for $5. So I think my point with all of that is sometimes I meet people and they're like, I just don't have the startup money to get going. That is just a bunch of crap, really. I mean, it really just is. I mean, it took me literally $100 from start to finish and 72 hours to start my business. Free business cards. I didn't even have a logo at first. I just wrote my name in a fun font and put it on the website. I had my GoDaddy website, and I had some thank you cards. I sent out 500 thank you cards. So when I go back to that relationship piece, the first thing I did when I left Event 360 and started my own company, I had my own personal business cards. I bought a stack of thank you cards from Target, and I spent every day and every night writing thank you cards to everyone I had ever worked or met with in my life. And all I said was, I enjoy having you in my life, wanted to let you know what I'm up to, hope things are well. That was it. That's all I said. I got my first 4 clients from the thank you cards. And they were big clients. They were clients that make you realize, I'm on the right track, I'm gonna actually have a business here, things are gonna be fine. And so I would encourage you guys, do not make excuses. I won't tolerate it. You guys shouldn't tolerate it. There's actually a whole book called The $100 Startup, written by the guy that actually hosts the World Domination Summit. So if you need some encouragement, go find out what he did with $100. It's amazing. Here are some rules, personal things. I think I'm getting close to good. I'll have a couple more questions. I'll leave some time for questions. Rules that I live by. Things that, when we think about rules of the game, these are the rules of my game. I make up my own rules at this point, but these are what they are, so I thought I'd share them with you guys. Number 1, if a venture capitalist or an angel investor wants to give you money, take it. Take it, take it, take it. I have turned it down twice, and both times I regretted it. I think you get this idea of, I don't want to give away a piece of what I'm building, this is my original idea, all of those things. What I'm going to tell you is, that's also a bunch of crap. And you will be so much happier if you take the money. And I think there's a little bit of guilt with it. The first time you try it, someone says, I'm willing to give you $25,000 to try out this business. And you think, oh God, what if I fail? What if this business isn't the idea I thought it was? You know what? They're okay with that. They are willing to take that risk with you. They obviously see something in you that's worth it and that is okay with them to give that money to you, and they can help you make that business successful. That's that whole idea of 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So lesson number 1, if anyone ever offers me money, I take it. That's it. Never rehire anyone. For those of you that are managers or that are in a position or own your own business, if someone has chosen to leave your company, or if you have asked someone to leave your company, never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, rehire that person. It never works out. It ends up being a miserable experience, and I would just encourage you all, just lesson learned, learn from me. I'll just share that nugget with you. Send handwritten thank you notes. Like I said, it's very important. It's been, the backbone of my business. The other thing I would say is make it easy. These are all things that you say to yourself, oh, I want to do that, but when am I going to find the time? Doug Ullman, who's the CEO of Livestrong, taught me this. Every time he leaves his office, he puts a stack of thank you notes pre-stamped in his briefcase and takes them with him wherever he goes. So when he has lunch with you, before he's even back at the office, chances are he has written his thank you note and dropped it in a mailbox between lunch and the office. Make it easy on yourself. Don't put this on a to-do list and make it something that, oh yeah, on Fridays I'm gonna write thank you notes. Do it immediately, and this kind of goes for everything. Make it easy. Sign up for Google Alerts. For those of you guys that don't know what Google Alerts are, it's super simple. There's videos about how you can sign up on YouTube. But basically anything you care about, your business, your company, your career, your industry, how to be a better parent, anything. You can sign up for Google Alerts and they'll send you daily or weekly updates. So for all of my clients or anybody that contacts me for work, one of the first things we do at my company is sign up for Google Alerts, because then when that information comes in, so say like the Austin Planetarium has been in the news a lot lately, as soon as I see a great article, I'll forward it out to the board members and to the executive director and say, I saw this, wanted to make sure you saw it. Or the ALS Association, I saw that you guys, this is a great article about your new corporate partnership, wanted to make sure you all saw it and had it posted on your website. Google Alerts helps you look like you're in the know and you spend your whole day searching for information about them, when in reality it's all just coming to you. So again, make it easy on yourself, put yourself in a situation where you have a reason to contact people, and be top of mind. Be concise, don't waste time, you don't get it back. You just don't. Every minute you waste, that's it, it's gone. And so you need to be very aware of even how you use other people's time. When you go into a meeting, don't call meetings for no reason. Make sure that they're purposeful. Make sure that you understand from the start, is a decision being made. All of those basics. If you haven't read Robert's Rules of Order, that's also a must. That kind of goes on to slide number 1, the basics, knowing how to communicate with people, know how to run a meeting. That right there will probably set you in the top 10% of anyone that's working in the world today. If you can run an efficient meeting, people will love you. They will invite you to come to all kinds of exciting activities because they know you know your stuff. So read that book. My dad made me read it when I was like 10. Probably not as helpful at that point, but don't allow your job to define you. One of the things that I found myself doing up until now with my business that I have now is I always let my job be the first thing that I would say about myself. I'd meet someone, hi, my name is Rachel Armbruster, I'm the VP of Development for the Lance Armstrong Foundation. Hi, my name is Rachel Armbruster, I work at the Sun Bowl Association. That was a mistake, and I would encourage you guys to do it differently. I would encourage you to say, my name is Rachel, obviously don't say my name, but my name is Rachel Armbruster, and I'm a fundraising expert. My name is Rachel, and I love to solve problems. Is there anything that I can help you with? Those are things that are about you. Because sometimes when you lose your job, especially right now in this economy, all of a sudden your job changes and you lose your sense of self. You lose your definition of who you are. It was very hard. Everyone in my neighborhood, everyone in my circle of friends, they knew me as the girl that worked for Lance. So when I decided to make that change, that was difficult. It was like, wow, that's not me anymore. Don't let that be you. It shouldn't have been me to begin with. I was doing, I am an advocate for cancer survivorship. I work at the Lance Armstrong Foundation. This is who I am. This is what I do. So think about, how do you introduce yourself and let that have an impact? Know your long-term goals. Make sure that what you're doing today is gonna matter. So, and again, this is long-term goals for everything. So one of the things that I had to come to, my original goal was to be an attorney. Then I decided to get married, and I thought, well, I'll end up being a stay-at-home mom. Why am I going to spend the money on law school? All of this obviously has not gone according to plan. We will just throw that out because I'm obviously working. But then, you think about, oh, well, I'm going to be the executive director of a nonprofit organization, an international nonprofit. That's why I started going to St. Edward's to get my MBA. That was my goal at the time. Everything I was doing was working towards that. Well, then I had kids, and things changed again. So you have to understand what your long-term goals are, but know that it's a roadmap. Know that you can get from point A to point B a million different ways, so be okay with that. And know that somewhere along the journey, you might decide, I don't even want to go there anymore. I'm going over here, but everything you've done to this point is going to help lead you there. It's going to make that easier as well. So just think about your roadmap, think about your long-term goals, and think about them both personal and professionally. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So be careful. This is a huge one. This is where you spend your time, who you spend it with, the jobs that you say yes to, the businesses you start, the partners you take on, everything. Be careful. Saying yes can be a very, very dangerous thing. It can be great, it can be wonderful, but if you're not thoughtful about it, it can really distract from the long-term goals and take you off your map. Know how to read financials, but have a good accountant. This is just a life lesson. I'm going to share it with everyone. Always have a good accountant, and on that same line, have a lawyer write your contracts. I've gone both ways where you find drafts online or what have you, but I would highly recommend find an attorney. And even if you don't have your own business yet, then start networking with attorneys and find one that you like. Find one that writes up contracts, that does employment contracts, know your rights, and just have that person in your network, because you don't want to be in the moment where you need that person and now you're trying to create a relationship. You want to have the relationship so that when you need it, you're ready. So I would encourage you all to do that. The last thing I wanted to say, the rule that I live by, is know my value. And my value changes depending on the audience. So I'm worth something different to a small local nonprofit that's trying to raise $100,000 versus the ALS Association that raises $20 million during their walk season. My value is different to those two groups. The amount of impact I'm going to make is different, just because it is. So you really need to understand your value, but understand it by audience. Don't just assume that it's the same everywhere. So when you're pricing yourself out for the projects that you do or for the next job that you take, you might be worth a huge salary at one company, but you're not worth that at another company. Know that. Understand that. Think about how you are bringing value and understand that going into the process. What impact are you going to have? And then don't ask for more, but don't settle for less. So the last thing I want to throw out to you guys today, I think I'm at time, is a 72-hour challenge. I read somewhere a long time ago that if you're going to make a change, you have to make it within 72 hours of deciding to do it, or you won't do it. Chances are, your chance of actually doing anything after 72 hours goes to like 5%. Whereas if you can do it within the next 3 days, chances are pretty good that it's going to stick and that something's going to happen. So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is think to yourself, write it down. What will you do in the next 72 hours with the information that you have learned this morning? Already this morning. And it can be a little thing like I'm registering for my website, I'm getting my business cards, I'm changing my job description, whatever it is, but figure out something you're going to do. And then I love this exercise. It's just a great way to think about everything that you have kind of swirling around in your head right now is keep, lose, change. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but basically think to yourself, what are the things about me and about my life right now that I want to keep? What are the things that I want to lose? And what are the things that I want to change? And there should be something on every list. And these are things, again, to just help you. It's that first step in making a change, making something different, knowing that from the moment you all leave this conference this afternoon, you will be a different person. You will be on a different path. You will be making progress towards your long-term goals. So these are some exercises that I use quite a bit. And the next slide is my contact information. So this is where you can find me. That's my cell phone number. Have it with me all the time. You can text me, call me, email me, and that's it. And thank you.
Let's give a round of applause, right? So you see why I really love talking to her, just in the back there. And I hope you saw everyone writing things down, writing down the books, writing down those quotes. You can tell that she's a really good person who has a lot of experience. And again, her book is Banding Together for a Cause. I know I'm ready to get my signed copy. I was like, where's my checkbook? Because hopefully you take debit card. I don't know. So I'm really hoping that you remember her book, because a lot of times it's not just about, you saw that she recommended a lot of books here. So I know in the future, even if you get the book just for yourself today, there's someone in your life who's going to be able to use this information. So I want you to check that out in the back and go ahead and get a signed copy. And just keep her in mind, because there's some people in the room, I care about you a lot, and I know that you might want to also just contact her, connect with her, and ask her for her advice and her insight. She's a really good person that really connects well with people, and that's someone that you want in your network, right? All right, so one last round. we're getting ready to set up. So thank you for coming to this session. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.